Hello everyone and welcome to Modernizing Old Hymns number 17. Today what we're going to do is we're going to use the chords G, C, D, and we're going to take a melody. We'll be using hymn number 581 here, All Ye Who on This Earth Do Dwell. There's actually 4 other hymns that use this melody as well. So we'll take the chord and we'll use it to write a simple harmony for this hymn. Then you can take that harmony and you could use it to, say, for a duet. You could use it as an introduction to the hymn. Or you might even be able to take it and write a whole nother song with it. Okay, first of all, let me run through it here once, in case you're not familiar with the hymn. You might want to go through it several times here, replay it till you're familiar with the melody, or pause here and try to play it yourself, but this is what it sounds like. All ye who on this earth do dwell, give thanks and glorify the Lord, whose praises ever swell in seraph songs on high. Or if you prefer, the hymnal does its usual trick here. It plays a D sustained chord followed by a D chord. You can try that too if you'd like. Now let's write a simple harmony for this using the chord. Okay, the first note we've got here is a G on a G chord. Now here's the G chord. If I'm going to write a lower note below this, what should it be? The chord repeats itself up and down the scale, right? So the next note to write below it would be a D. So I'm going to write a D in there. Okay, next we've got a C chord. This is what the C chord looks like. And you can find free charts on the internet that will have every chord you could possibly need. But, okay, we've got an E note here. What note should come below the E? The C. So I'm going to write a C note in here. Next, we've got a D chord. This is what a D chord looks like. D, F sharp, and A. So we've got the D note. What note should we write underneath that? Again, it repeats itself, so the A would be the note we want to write below that. Okay, and of course it doesn't take too long to get those chords memorized. Again, over here we would have a D, an F sharp, a G, and so on. Okay, now here I have the result. I printed it up on the computer for you here. Should be pretty easy to see, and we've got a simple 2-note harmony here based on the chords that I originally wrote down for you. Let's see what it sounds like. I'll be lazy and let the computer play it here. So there we have a nice two-note arrangement. Everything's in harmony because we used the chords to determine what that harmony would be. Here would be a nice duet for two people to sing or two instruments to play. Now I'm going to do something a little wilder here. I took the harmony that we just wrote, the harmony notes, the lower notes, and I wrote them up as a separate song here. Now, it wouldn't sound very good if I just played it the way it was. Of course, you want a song in the key of G to end on a G note. So I changed that D up to a G so it sounds more like a song in its own right. And since I did it there too, I thought I'd do it at the end of the first line too. So let's see what my new song sounds like. There, it sounds like a song in its own right, doesn't it? Okay, it probably won't be the hit song of the year, but I've got to start on writing a new song at least. I think it kind of sounded a little dull in here. I kind of like the way it sounded in here. Okay, so maybe I could go through this again and raise those notes up a little bit to give it some pizzazz. All right, but this doesn't have to be a whole new song either. This could just be an accompaniment for someone to play along with the original hymn number 581. Okay, now here we are back to the two-note harmony again that we wrote before. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take the harmony note, the lower note, and I'm going to offset it time-wise. I'm going to play the harmony notes 1/8 beat after the melody notes. And as a matter of fact, to give it a nice rhythm on the half notes, I'm going to add even a couple more eighth notes of harmony in there. Another thing I'm going to do is, again, to keep the rhythm going, I'm going to play a couple of eighth notes here where the rest is. So I wrote it up on the computer, and you can see the harmony note for the G note. I wrote an eighth note behind it. I went down one step lower for a little more harmony because that note lasts for the whole 4 eighth notes here. And you can see here's the E note on a C chord followed by a C note and so on. And this is what it looks like. So let's see what it sounds like. Okay, now for you beginning string players, you might be looking at this and thinking, oh, that's way too hard for me. You've already done it. If you've done what I've shown you by playing down the chord, the harmony note that goes along with it. been doing this automatically. You have an automatic way of doing it. Okay, and I hope that for those of you who play instruments that only tend to play one note at a time, you can see what was happening when us string instrument players were doing this. Okay, we're just going up and down the chord. And that's what you can do too if you know the chords. This right here could be a nice solo for a violinist or a flutist. Just make sure you emphasize the melody notes. And it's automatic if you know the chords. Very easy to write out. Okay, now I'm going to write a higher harmony for this hymn. Here's the original hymn. And the next note above a G note on the G chord would be a B. On the C it would be a G. On the D it would be an F sharp. And so on. You can go through the whole hymn, try it yourself and work it up this way. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Okay. Not only am I going to write the harmony here, I'm going to offset that higher harmony by an eighth beat, just like I did with the last song, except higher up this time. And when I'm all done with it, it'll look like this. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay, and not only does this make a nice solo again for somebody to play on a flute or something like that, if you play it along with the first one I did with the lower harmony, like this, because they were made using the same chords, these two songs will harmonize with each other. You could play it with another instrumentalist as a duet. And again, for you string instrument players like the guitar, if you've been leading with your thumb, you've been doing the same thing automatically, just going up and down the chord. Okay, so now I took those high notes that we just came up with going up the chord, and I wrote them up as a separate song. Again, it's in the key of G, so I ended on the G note, and I did the same thing at the end of the first line too, just because I think it sounded a little better. But look, I changed the rhythm of the song quite a bit. I kept those eighth notes where that one beat rest was. Okay, and everything else is pretty much rearranged except for the notes themselves. The timing is really rearranged. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay, now if this becomes the hit song of the year and I make $1 million off of it, that's okay by me. You see, it sounds quite a bit different from the original, hymn number 581. I don't think the average person would recognize that I actually got my inspiration for this song from that hymn. But no, really, I wrote this to be an accompaniment to the hymn, or you could also use it as an introduction to the hymn if you want a fancier version. But let me get my starting note here. All right. Let me sing along with it. So you can see I wrote this to kind of fill in some of the empty spots where those longer half notes were, where the rests were, to keep the rhythm going. All ye who on this earth do dwell, give thanks and glorify the Lord, whose praises ever swell in seraph songs on high. Now, I've seen quite a bit of modern choral music that uses this technique. The composer starts with one of the old Christian hymns that everybody knows. They write an accompaniment to it like this, and they usually start with the accompaniment and later work in the old hymn, and at some point in the song they may very well sing both parts together. Okay, these songwriters do make a little bit of money at least. Now you know how to do what they do. Okay, now should you just copy somebody's song and say, this is mine? No, you shouldn't. That's called plagiarism, copying something illegally. But there's really nothing wrong with getting your inspiration from an older song. Believe it or not, there have been some modern songwriters who got their inspiration from old hymns. And again, most of the hymns in the hymnal are in the common domain. You can do whatever you want with them. But, be careful. Make sure you're not using one that's copyrighted. I remember the Beatles, that they had a song. You know you didn't even try, girl. And that sounds suspiciously to me like hymn number 429 in the Lutheran hymnal. Lord, thee I love with all my heart. They changed the rhythm a little bit, and of course they added sort of a second part to it. So another one, I think it was George Harrison, former Beatle too, who wrote a song. I'm not even sure of the name of it, but which sounds very similar to hymn number 172 in our Lutheran hymnal. O sacred head now wounded, with grief and shame weighed down. Yeah, he changed the rhythm a little bit, changed the notes a little bit, but I can definitely hear that song in there. And classical musicians for years have been relying on old folk songs to give them ideas for new compositions. One of my favorite modern composers, John Williams, wrote a lot of the soundtracks for Hollywood movies, including Star Wars. In his Indiana Jones theme, I keep hearing an old fiddle tune in there, first printed in the year 1729, Over the Hills and Far Away. It's an adventuresome song, so it makes good sense to write a new composition about an adventuresome guy using that old song. Okay, now I really don't have an assignment for you down below this time. Just take your favorite hymn, your favorite whatever song, And use the techniques I showed you today and apply them to that song. See what you come up with. Okay, now we could modernize this harmony even a little more by adding some major seventh chords to it. Major seventh chords seem to be all the rage today. So let's do that next time. Thank you for watching.